Think for a moment about um, navigating life, your own well-being, staying healthy, and those really important connections you have. So much of that comes down to understanding something we often, skirt around, sex education.
Absolutely. And in this deep dive, we're going to explore why having a solid grasp of this isn't just helpful, it's essential for a healthy life. We've looked at some really informative sources that dig into why sex education is so vital, what absolutely needs to be covered, and importantly, how we can make it better.
Exactly. Our goal here isn't to just drown you in information, but to pull out the crucial insights so you can really understand this important topic. Consider this your fast track to being truly informed. And to help us navigate all of this, we have an expert with us who will offer some uh, deeper perspectives on the material.
Happy to be here.
So let's jump right in. Why is sex education even necessary in today's world? It feels like it goes far beyond just the basic biology we might have learned, right?
What's interesting to consider is that you're spot on. It's much more than just the old birds and bees talk. At its heart, sex education empowers you, with the knowledge to make informed decisions about your body, your health, and crucially, your relationships.
Okay.
It builds a foundation of safety, fosters an understanding of what consent truly means, encourages mutual respect, and ultimately helps everyone navigate their lives in a healthier way.
Okay. Let's unpack that a little more then. The sources we looked at really emphasize that this isn't just a personal matter. It's actually a key component of public health. Can you explain that connection a bit?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, comprehensive sex education is truly foundational for the well-being of the entire community. The data consistently indicates that it plays a significant role in reducing the rates of sexually transmitted infections, STI.
STIs.
Yes. And it also contributes to lower rates of unintended pregnancies. Furthermore, and this is so critical, by nurturing an environment of mutual respect and understanding, it can be a powerful tool in preventing sexual violence.
That makes a lot of sense. So when we talk about the impact on public health, what are some concrete examples of how this kind of education leads to positive outcomes? Like, how does it actually work?
Sure. There are several important ways this plays out. For example, when individuals understand STI prevention methods, like knowing how to correctly use barrier methods like condoms and dental dams,
Right.
and when they are aware of the signs and symptoms of different infections and know where to access testing, well, we see a direct impact on reducing transmission rates. It's pretty clear.
Makes sense.
Similarly, when people have thorough education about contraception, it empowers them to make informed choices. And the evidence strongly links this to lower rates of both teen pregnancy and unintended pregnancies across, well, all age groups, really.
So it's not just about avoiding negative outcomes. It's also about empowering individuals to make positive health choices.
Okay.
Now, let's shift our focus a bit to what exactly a good sex education program should include. It sounds like it needs to cover quite a range of topics.
This raises a really important point because historically, sex education often focused quite narrowly on the biological aspects, reproduction.
Yeah, the biology part.
Exactly. And while understanding anatomy, reproduction, and sexual health is definitely a vital part, a truly comprehensive program recognizes that these biological elements are just one piece of the puzzle. Equally important are in-depth discussions about consent, what it means to give and receive enthusiastic agreement,
Crucial.
the dynamics of healthy relationships, understanding sexual orientation and gender identity, and increasingly crucial in today's world, navigating digital safety within the context of relationships and sexuality.
Hmm. Digital safety, that's a big one now.
It really is. So by comprehensive sex education, we mean a curriculum that goes beyond just biology to include all these other vital topics.
The sources also highlight how important it is to be sensitive to different backgrounds and beliefs. How should that influence what's taught? Because that seems like a tricky area.
It can be, yeah. Cultural sensitivity and inclusivity are absolutely paramount. We live in a very diverse society with a wide spectrum of backgrounds and belief systems, right?
Right.
So, a strong sex education program acknowledges this diversity and makes sure the information presented is relevant and respectful of different cultural norms, while still upholding fundamental principles of health, safety, and respect for all individuals.
Okay, so it's a balance.
It is. This means carefully considering the language used, the examples provided, and ensuring that all students feel included and seen regardless of their background.
One of the main concerns I often hear, and it came up in the sources too, is about making sure the information is appropriate for different ages.
Huh.
How do educators and curriculum developers decide what to teach at different developmental stages?
That's a really critical consideration, and it's definitely not about applying a one-size-fits-all approach.
And
The key is to tailor the content specifically to the developmental stage of the learners. So for younger children, the focus might be on understanding body autonomy, learning about their personal boundaries, good touch, bad touch, who they can talk to about their bodies, simple foundational stuff.
right, basic safety.
Exactly. Then, as they get older, the curriculum can introduce more complex topics like consent in more detail, the changes of puberty, emotional well-being in relationships, things like that. The idea is that the education evolves right along with the individual's development, providing you with the information you need when you need it, and in a way that's, understandable.
It sounds like a really well thought out step-by-step approach is necessary. Now, let's talk reality.
Hmm.
The reality is that not everyone has access to this kind of quality education. What are some of the obstacles, the challenges that prevent people from getting the sex education they need?
Yeah, unfortunately, there are several significant barriers. The stigma that still surrounds sexual health and open conversations about sex is a major one. It just shuts down conversation.
Oh,
Cultural taboos in some communities can also prevent the implementation of comprehensive education. Then there's a lack of adequate resources that includes sufficient funding and also properly trained educators. That's a big piece.
training is huge, I bet.
It really is. And of course, differing values and beliefs about what should or shouldn't be taught can lead to political opposition, which can be a major roadblock.
So considering these hurdles, what can actually be done to improve the state of sex education? What are some potential solutions or ways forward that the sources point to?
Well, the sources highlight several key areas for progress. Strong advocacy for policy changes at the local, state, even national levels is crucial to mandate and adequately fund comprehensive programs.
Policy matters.
Definitely. We also need to invest in better training for educators so they feel confident and well prepared to teach these sensitive topics effectively. And it's essential that the programs themselves are evidence-based,
Evidence-based, meaning
they are developed and implemented based on research and what we actually know works to improve outcomes, not just based on assumptions or anecdotes.
got it. The idea of getting the community involved also comes up quite a bit in the readings. How important is it to have parents, schools, and local leaders actively participating?
Oh, community involvement is absolutely vital. It's critical for the success and long-term sustainability of these programs. When parents are well-informed and actively engaged, when schools prioritize this education, and when local leaders champion it, it creates this supportive environment where young people can learn and grow safely.
Like a whole ecosystem of support.
Exactly. Open communication and collaboration among these different groups can help address concerns, build trust, and create a shared understanding of why comprehensive sex education is so important for everyone in the community.
It's interesting to think about new and different ways to reach people, too. The sources mentioned some innovative approaches. Can you tell us a little more about those? What's new out there?
Yeah, what's particularly promising are peer education programs. When students who have been properly trained educate their peers.
Ah, okay. Peer-to-peer.
Yes, it can create a learning environment that feels more relatable and, frankly, less intimidating. Young people might feel more comfortable asking questions and having open discussions about sensitive topics with someone closer to their own age.
That makes sense. Less awkward, maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
Mm.
Additionally, the advancements in technology offer some really exciting possibilities. Apps and online platforms can broaden access to information, provide interactive learning experiences, and potentially reach individuals who might not have access to traditional classroom-based education.
So using tech.
Right. But, of course, it's absolutely critical that these digital resources are accurate, age-appropriate, and trustworthy. That's the caveat.
Good point. Accuracy is key online. That makes a lot of sense, meeting people where they are, both in terms of location and how they learn best. Now, we actually received a couple of questions from our listeners that really tie into what we've been discussing, and I thought it would be helpful to address them directly.
Great.
The first one is something I think many parents think about. How do we talk about sex with our kids without it being totally awkward and uncomfortable?
Ah, yes, the awkwardness question. That's such a common feeling. The sources suggest that the key is to try and normalize these conversations as much as possible.
Normalize. How?
Well, look for those everyday moments. Maybe something comes up in a movie you're watching together or a news story. Use those as natural starting points to introduce related topics in a casual way. Don't make it this huge, formal talk.
Okay, seize the moment.
Exactly. Keep the conversation factual, use language that's appropriate for their age, and really emphasize that open communication is what you're aiming for. Let your kids know that they can ask you anything, and importantly, it's perfectly okay if you don't have all the answers immediately.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah. You can even say, "That's a great question, I'm not sure. Let's look into that together." The more you talk about it openly over time in small bits, the less awkward it tends to become for everyone.
That's really helpful advice, thinking of it as an ongoing conversation rather than one big, daunting talk.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question that came in. What if my school doesn't offer any kind of sex education? What are some things I can do?
Right, that's a tough situation. If your school isn't providing comprehensive sex education, there are definitely actions you can take. Start by looking for community-based organizations or local health clinics in your area. They often offer workshops or have reliable resources available.
So look outside the school.
Yes, there are also many reputable online platforms, Planned Parenthood's website, Scarleteen, places like that, and lots of age-appropriate books that can help supplement their education. Find trustworthy sources,
Okay.
and importantly, don't underestimate the impact of local advocacy. Consider reaching out to your school board members, your parent-teacher association, even your local elected officials to voice your support for including comprehensive sex education in the school curriculum. Your voice can truly make a difference, especially when joined with others.
Those are some really practical steps our listeners can take. It's so clear from our deep dive today that sex education is far more than just another subject in school. It's really a fundamental part of growing up healthy, safe, and well-informed.
Absolutely. The core message here, I think, is that sex education is a vital and truly a lifelong learning process that benefits every single one of us. Having access to accurate, comprehensive information empowers you to make informed decisions about your own health, your relationships, and your overall well-being. It's foundational.
And as we've explored, that knowledge is incredibly empowering, especially when it comes to something as personal and significant as our health and how we connect with others. We encourage you, our listener, to explore more resources online, to continue these important conversations with the people in your life, and to, always stay curious.
Yeah, and this leads to maybe a final thought for you to consider. How might more open and informed conversations about sex education really happening, in our homes, in our schools, and throughout our communities, how might that contribute to building a society that is healthier, safer, and more respectful for everyone? It's definitely something worth pondering.